Welcome our guest, who is a very, very interesting person who is going to lead a very interesting session for us. Um, he absolutely loves rediscovering inner creativity and helping people to unlock solutions, find solutions. And to do that, he uses quite a wide range of personal experience to reframe problems and to help people develop new ideas. Jared Lee is not only a scuba diver, an amateur musician, a professional aerospace engineer, also an adventurous traveler, and a former skydiving coach. In addition to all of that, he did manage to stay a husband, and he lives in Montreal with his wife and two wonderful kids. Although he grew up in the warm Florida, after that he lived in San Francisco, Seattle, Vancouver, and then ended up in Montreal. So Jared, welcome, and please take us through the design thinking journey today.
Excellent. Thank you, Ina. Thank you, Valerie. It's a pleasure to be with you for Power Skills 2021. As Ina said, I'm Jared Lee, and my current role essentially is a strategy and innovation consultant at a boutique firm here in Montreal called Juniper. We use a lot of design thinking to help others unlock creative solutions to interesting human-centered problems. So that's what we'll be doing today. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here with you. This is one of my favorite topics, and I love teaching and facilitating and help others discover their inner creativity and uncover this method for themselves, which I promise you, you already know how to do design thinking. You just may not have had it in those terms, but everyone is a design thinker at heart. I'd like to get to know a little bit about your experience with design thinking. So we're going to launch a poll right now, right off the top, to ask about your experience within design thinking. Valerie, if we could launch that. Excellent. So experience from design what now? I have no idea what we're talking about. How did I get here? To why am I not teaching this workshop? Jared, get out of the way. Excellent. Starting to see some votes roll in. We've got about halfway. Coming in fast now. Excellent response. It's got 3/4. Let's maybe give it another 10 seconds.
Don't be shy.
Good. I think that's a representative sample. Perhaps we can stop there. So quite a few people, I've heard of it before, but I still don't really know what it is. So 15 respondents, about 1/3 of the audience there. And we see an even sort of scattering, 15 to 20% across some of the other answers. And nobody wants to teach the workshop, which I was hoping for a co-facilitator, Ina. I thought we were gonna find a diamond in the rough and somebody who wanted to jump in here with me, but perhaps not. So
not today.
So let me take a moment to just say thank you for responding to the poll. That helps me to understand sort of where the audience is. And it also is an affirmation that it's okay to ask questions, to not know. It's all right to approach this from scratch because everybody has to learn something new at one point in their life or another. And today is sort of that day for design thinking for many of you. So that is outstanding and very, very exciting. Let's talk about what we're going to do with the workshop. I have 2 objectives here. One is to introduce a new skill set. It's a skill set and put some vocabulary around it, give you some understanding and some insights and some framing as to why you would use design thinking. But more than that, I really want you to apply those new skills right away. And I really do mean right away. So let's get creative. Let's warm up a little bit. Grab a sheet of paper and a pen. If you've got crayons and construction paper like my kids do, that's fine too. A whiteboard, whatever it is, let's get creative by inventing an innovative wallet. We put together a PDF of a workbook that we can drop into the chat here that you can have for afterwards. I don't expect anybody to run out and print it, but what we might be looking for, even on a blank sheet of paper, is a concept title for your innovative wallet, a sketch of that wallet, even rough, it's okay, just a quick little doodle, and then some description points, maybe some bullet points. And we'll take about 2 minutes right now to do that. We'll stay in plenary, everybody's working on their own. So take about 2 minutes, invent what an innovative wallet means. Sketch it out, describe it, and give it a title. I see a few people with their videos on, working away. Excellent, thank you. And I just dropped into the chat a PDF of the workbook. You can download that and print it really quickly if you want, or you'll have it for later. All right, let's take another 45 seconds to a minute. Remember, I'm not asking you to sketch your wallet. I'm asking you to invent an innovative wallet. All right, 15 more seconds. Okay, how was that? We've got another poll. Got another poll for you, and we're curious to see how that was. On a scale of 1 to 9, how easy was it to come up with some ideas? 1 being I couldn't think of a single thing. 5, I came up with a handful of ideas, but I'm not really sure if they count, if that's a wallet or if it's innovative. And 9, I've got the next market breakthrough idea. Goodbye, Power Skills. Thank you very much. That's all the inspiration I needed. And I'm gonna go work for a Louis Vuitton and sell the next major breakthrough wallet. We've got about half of the people responding. Excellent, thank you. That's 67%. We'll give it another 10 seconds. If you haven't voted yet, let's see how you thought that was. All right, I'm gonna stop it there. We're gonna share the results. And what do we see? We see a pretty broad mix of folks around the middle, but across the whole spectrum. So somebody's got a breakthrough idea. Congratulations. I'll take the royalties off of that whenever you get that launched. I really appreciate it. Somebody couldn't think of a single thing. Actually, 5 people said, I couldn't think of a single thing. And that's usually what happens. And we're all somewhere along the spectrum. Maybe we've got the creative juices flowing already today. Some people right in the middle, that's great. But if you couldn't think of a single thing, or you're somewhere in that bottom of the spectrum, that's okay. Because it's really hard to invent something when somebody says, have a good idea right now, in this moment, in this spot, no questions asked, have a good idea. And you go, your brain freezes up and you go, what? I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing here. So we're going to introduce a process, the process of design thinking, to help you unlock the inner creativity that I promise you have. We can stop sharing those results there. And I'm going to move on to 1984 commercial. Some of you may remember this. This is Apple's famous 1984 commercial. came out talking about think different, the logo of Apple back Steve Jobs, the iPhone, think different. And this commercial, if you've never seen it, is a bunch of people all dressed in gray lined up to see Big Brother giving a big speech. And then all of a sudden, someone comes out running down the hallways with a large sledgehammer and slings it into the giant Big Brother screen. So Apple, think different. Think different encapsulates what we're going to try to do today. We're going to try to introduce design thinking so you can think a little bit differently. But I also want you to think different in this moment, because this is not a lecture. You may have noticed already that, as pleasing as I may look, thank you very much, I am not going to do just a pure presentation and a pure lecture. There are going to be other webinars and things that you can go see and other references that you can read at your own time. If you don't want to participate in terms of breakout groups, in terms of sharing your ideas, that's fine. You won't hurt my feelings. But if you're going to stay, I want you to make me a promise. If you're going to stay here today for the next 90 minutes together, I want you to be engaged. I want you to be ready to go into breakouts with some of your colleagues and share some of your ideas, share some of your experiences, because that is what design thinking is built upon. Now's your chance to run for the proverbial exits, because we're going to set up breakouts soon. All right. So what is design thinking? If this is not a lecture, what is design thinking? Here, Scott Adams gives us an example of Dogbert at his finest. Dogbert says, you must create disruptive innovations that redefine the market. And then someone sitting next to him says, doesn't that mean the same thing as sell things that people want? Dogbert's response is, yeah, but there's one big difference. You only get paid if you say it in a funny way. Maybe, but Dogbert says, I like to think I'm disruptively innovative, right? So there's a lot of jargon around design thinking. People say design thinking, and you've heard the term, and a lot of people in the poll said, yeah, I've kind of heard of it, but I really don't know what it is. So let me ask you, what do you think design thinking is? Let's get rid of the jargon. Jump into the chat and give me your definition of design thinking based on what you know now. I'll offer my own, but I'm curious to see what everybody thinks it is. How would you frame it? How would you express what is design thinking? All right, from Xenia, we have systematic process that takes you through steps to get to a final idea and execution. Good, I like it, Xenia. I'll add one thing, because systematic process to get to an end solution might describe a few different things. Solve a problem that impacts human beings, says Randy. I like the human beings addition. So we're building that together. So we've got a process, we've got human beings, reaching goals, excellent. Reinvention.
I like the one that somebody answered, design that solves a problem, a human problem.
Yeah, that's right. Francis also says, consider everything as a prototype. Yes, absolutely. That's one of the foundational principles of design thinking, is being able to iterate through prototypes. Empathize. Thank you, Milagros. Thank you, Milagros, to empathize. Yes, yes. That is core. That is what I would say sets design thinking apart from other problem-solving methodologies, is that ability to empathize, get out of your own paradigm, your own perspective, and see things through the eyes of the user.
Jared, I heard once, I don't know who said that, but there is an interesting expression. You know, we often say, imagine yourself in my shoes.
Indeed.
I guess a lot of this is about imagining yourself in somebody else's shoes. But the saying that I heard once is that before you imagine yourself in someone else's shoes, don't forget to take off your own. I think that's what many of us forget to do.
That's a really good point, Ina. Thank you. I haven't heard that.
Take off our own shoes right now.
Yeah. That's a good point. I'm going to kick off my own, actually.
And then just put, try to imagine that we are in someone else's shoes.
Excellent. All right. I've got my shoes off. I really do.
Yeah, me too. That's it.
So let me offer a hopefully jargon-free, jargon-light definition, which is very much in line with what you as a very wise audience already have said, a disciplined, human-centered approach to creative problem solving. And so it's, a lot of people mention a process, that's the discipline. You go through steps, you sort of follow guidelines. It's human-centered, so you're using empathy with the user, as we say, getting out of our own shoes in order to try on somebody else's. And it's creative problem solving, so unlocking new ideas in order to solve a problem. And many of you said in the chat, solving a problem, getting to a goal, absolutely. So I think we have, in one way or another, actually a pretty good foundational understanding of design thinking within the audience today, and that's fantastic. What I'm trying to do over the next little bit together is give you a few more tools, another way of thinking about what you already know, and a way to crystallize that into a process. The design thinking process, you may see it represented in different ways. It is a set of principles, a set of tools that allow you to do that human-centered approach to solving problems creatively. I'm going to introduce one particular approach today. We're going to walk through a 5-step framework, and credit where credit is due. This is not Jared Lee's process for design thinking. This is adapted a little bit from the design thinking process that's taught at the Stanford D School. That's the Hasso-Plattner Institute of Design at Stanford University. It is one of the metaphorical homes to design thinking. It's sort of the soul of design thinking in the world. If it resides anywhere, it might reside at the D School. So let's talk a little bit more about it. Some of those foundational principles, or how design thinking works in our brain. When we think through design and design thinking, we need to use both sides of our brain. Now, quick caveat that the left brain, right brain model, psychologically, neurologically speaking, isn't actually accurate, but it's a wonderful sort of framework and a handy little way to memorize and talk about the different ways that we think. And so the so-called left brain thinking, which doesn't happen just in the left lobe, we know, is the fact-based, the analytical, the existing knowledge. I've gone to school before, I've learned things A, B, C, I can regurgitate the facts, I can do the analysis, and I'm just going to solve the problem by brute force. The right brain way of thinking is sort of that artistic ideal, that flash of brilliance, that intuition and creativity that comes down from upon high to boom, there is the solution. Look at that. Now, both of those are caricatures. They're sort of extreme versions of how we actually think. But insofar as they are useful as a way to think about how and different methods that we think, design thinking begs you, invites you, requires you to put those two things together and to use a disciplined approach to creativity in order to integrate how you're thinking about it. Why? Because it's a human-centered approach to problem solving, and humans are fuzzy and messy, and we have both parts of our brain actually working together as a whole. So why don't we use both parts in order to solve problems? You're going to have to do that and learn along the way, because you know everything for sure. All swans are white. You know everything for sure until you don't. What? Some swans are black. The point of that black swan metaphor is that design thinking is a process. It's not a clear linear 5 steps. I learn, frame, ideate, test, iterate, done. As someone said, looking at everything as a prototype, absolutely. And not just looking at everything as a prototype, but looking at the process as being continuous, as learning and empathizing up front with your user. Yes, absolutely, you're going to learn something about them, but you're going to learn things along the way, and you may have to go all the way back to the beginning. A lot of the prototyping and iteration comes obviously toward the end, where we've drawn the tightest bits of loops, and we'll walk through each one of these phases and you'll see how new ideas generate first prototypes, and then you test them. And then once you've tested them a bit, you start to scale up, and even then you're iterating and iterating. All right. So let us do this. Go through that process. 1, learn. We're going to jump into breakouts very soon. Last warning. We're going to start with the first step in design thinking with learn. And in that step, we're going to observe users' behaviors and listen to them. And from that observation and listening and getting out of our own shoes, as Ina so rightly said, in order to try on someone else's shoes, that's where we get new perspectives and we gain new insights. So when you did the wallet, create an innovative wallet exercise up front, one of the obstacles for that is a wallet for whom? A wallet for me, a wallet for the market. If I'm designing something, who's going to use it? Well, design thinking says before you try to solve that problem, back up a few steps and learn about the end user first in order to discover some of the needs. The background image there is of a grocery store. There is a story that I like to tell. It was one of my colleagues. He was working with a grocery store chain. They asked him, find out about our users. How can we make our customers, I should say, happier? So he did an ethnographic approach, went to the woman's home. She made out her shopping list, very detailed shopping list, knew exactly on which row every item that she needed was. She went to the grocery store, followed her around, observing ethnographically and say, okay, she's sort of following, okay, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden, right at the end, she grabbed a chocolate bar. And they said, whoa, 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 whoa. Chocolate bar wasn't on your list. You said you were ordered. You knew exactly what you wanted coming in here. Like, you have a budget, and that's fine. Get your chocolate bar, ma'am. We're not going to stop you. But that was interesting. What happened there? And she said, well, you know, it's been just a tough couple of weeks, and I got my chores done today, and I need something for me. I need a little bit of a reward. I've been pretty good lately and helping my family. I'm going to get this chocolate bar. Now, one way to see that insight is to put chocolate bars everywhere. All the store is filled with nothing but chocolate bars. Well, now you've just made a chocolate bar store, and that's not the point. The point isn't that we need to fill the store with chocolate bars. It's we need to get to the deeper insight of what the woman was saying. She needed a reward. She needed an experience from the grocery store that validated and celebrated who she was and what she was doing. So by digging underneath to the deeper insights that are underlying all of us, underlying our motivations, our beliefs, our values, and the way that we go through the world that produces some observable behavior that somebody else can see, by using empathy to get below the waterline of this iceberg that we are as human beings, you can start to develop and say, what she needs is a reward, what she wants, and how can we give her that? So my colleague worked with the grocery store chain to start celebrating their customers and finding ways to make a more festive atmosphere. You walk into the store and there's a celebration of the customers, and you get to wear a hat, and then, you know, a month later it's a different campaign to celebrate the customers and give them back and give them little extra surprises and benefits and rewards for having gone about their daily lives and being part of that community. And it was massively successful. So what we need to do is drill below that waterline of human being observable behavior to understand those deeper underlying needs. And if nothing else from design thinking, I want you to take away that need to empathize and get to those deeper motivations. How do you do that? You observe people, you ask, and when you ask, you don't just focus on just the action, just her picking up the chocolate bar. You use open-ended questions. What's going through your mind? Why did you do that? I need a reward. Why do you need a reward? Et cetera, et cetera. Use lots of whys. Stay neutral. You're not trying to lead the witness, so to speak. Be objective. It's not about understanding whether or not their values fit with yours. Don't lead them and interrupt. Just let the open-ended questions flow, because oftentimes people don't know at first why it is they're doing things or why they're choosing something. So you have to open up and set the stage for them to think about it themselves and then tell you. So we're going to put it to practice. I promised you a breakout. Now's coming the time. In the workbook, in the PDF, we've got gather info from user, needs, and insights. We're going to help design a wallet for somebody else, not just the innovative wallet that you sketched out already, but throw that one away. That was an interesting prototype. Now you're going to design for a particular user in mind. And if you're going to design for a user in mind, you need to know who that user is on that deeper needs-based level. So what needs do their wallet fulfill, and what insights, and just dig deeper. Who is our user fundamentally? We use a wallet because a wallet is something that nearly all of us have. And if we don't have a wallet per se, we have a substitute for it because we all need money in our society, at least for the time being. And you can ask questions about, what does a wallet represent? What relationship do they have with money, right? For me, I have I left it. I normally have it with me to pull out, but I didn't leave my house this morning, so it's downstairs. I'll show you my wallet after the breakout, but I have a very simplistic wallet because I like things nice and orderly, nice and neat, not too much stuff. But other people have huge purses and backpacks because they want to feel super prepared for every eventuality. They can't leave home without a backpack full of stuff. And there's plenty of people in between, and there are all sorts of other wallet designs for other reasons. What I want you to do is, in breakouts of 4, select one person in the breakout to be that sort of vulnerable interviewee, to be that target user. And I want you to select just one because we have a limited amount of time. And this person who's going to volunteer themselves to be the interviewee needs to be a bit comfortable to say, yes, I'm going to open up and answer multiple questions about my wallet, about my life a little bit. I know you're strangers, many of you. Maybe everybody already knows each other by coincidence, but we're going to select one person, ask them about their wallet, what needs it fulfills, how they use it, where does it show up in their life, what would happen if they didn't have it. Keep going, keep digging to get below the waterline, and then figure out what insights that tells you about that person. Okay, so we're ready to launch the breakouts. If there are no questions, I'll pause for a moment to see if there are any questions in the chat. Okay, so the workbook, good. We've got that, excellent. If there are no other questions, let's send everybody to breakout. We're going to take about 10 minutes to do this one. Quickly introduce yourselves. I designate one person as the interviewee and see what they have to say about their wallet. We can launch breakouts now. Excellent. You should receive a prompt. You have to join your breakout by accepting. Okay, Giselle, I see. Can't join the breakout as I'm at work. Not a problem. You're welcome to hang out here in plenary, or Giselle. Actually, I'd recommend perhaps that you actually do join the breakout and at least just listen to that interview process, and you can text the group in the chat in the breakout and tell them the same thing. Okay, we see a few. Perhaps, Valerie, could we shuffle some of the folks that are in rooms either sort of by themselves or just 2?
Absolutely, I'm working on that now.
Excellent, thank you. Would you like me to help you do that? I'll let you do it.
Okay.
Lots of pinks. All right, I'm going to start my timer now. I know we got started a little bit late. That's all right. No worries. First breakout always is a little bit of a shuffle.
I'm going to jump into one of the smaller groups.
Oh, okay, thank you, Ina.
I feel like I'm playing Russian roulette. There's a lot of movement going on.
Yeah.
But I believe everyone has.
Looks like at least 3. That's good. At least 3 is good. We've got a few folks who are unassigned.
Oh, okay. They mustn't.
So if you just joined, we're in breakout groups working on understanding why people, with the relationship that people have with their wallets. And we'll put you into a small group breakout. I'll message the breakout rooms. Thanks for your patience, and go ahead and start if you haven't already.
Just joined.
Up to you. I think are we still recording? Yeah. Sometimes it's, hello, welcome back, welcome back. I'm gonna stop my share actually just for a moment so we can all see each other a little bit larger. How was that?
Oh my, that's an amazing exercise.
We learn a lot from each other, so that's good.
Say again?
We learn a lot from each other and new tricks, so that's good.
Excellent, thank you, Maria. Was there an awkward moment? I'm sure somebody's got sort of you don't have to say what it was, but was there any sort of awkwardness? It feels weird, right?
Yeah. You have to dig deep into the person and their life.
It didn't feel weird for me. I think our group, we were quite open. I think we spoke quite easily. It was a pretty good conversation.
Excellent, Sonia. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I'm glad. Well, whether or not it is easy and second nature, or if it's a few awkward moments right at the start, what you hope to get to is the free flowing that Sonia said. And if it is a bit awkward at first, as Ina was suggesting, then imagine what it's like when you're doing it with folks who did not just receive the same prompt in the training and did not sign up for the workshop to be participative. And when you're watching and observing people. So when you think about taking this skill set forward and solving human-centered problems with whether it's redesigning your organization, developing a new service, developing a new product for a target user, just remember that at first, one of the things we need to get over is that sort of inner, oh, I don't want to ask them, or I don't know. And then you have to get over that same reaction from other folks who are like, who is that person coming to interrupt me while I'm shopping for groceries and ask me why I just picked up this chocolate bar? So setting the stage for people is important, and also doing it in that neutral tone, that very observational, open-ended tone, and giving people the space to speak for as long as they're comfortable, and then gently guiding with, well, oh, that's interesting. Why is that? And reaffirming, oh, I can understand. Thank you for explaining that to me. Could you go a little bit further? And you're not reframing and putting your own words on it, because that's a bit leading. It's just affirming and digging deeper and asking for more, and then thanking them for their time and their insights. The other way to do this, of course, is not only to ask people, but to just stand back and observe. There's nothing stopping you from standing up at your workplace back when we were, when we all actually get to the workplace, or via Zoom, just observing how people are acting, observing the things that they're saying, and inferring a little bit some insights from that, and understanding why those underlying needs and beliefs and values exist based on the actions, rather than taking the actions solely at face value. Now, there's danger in that because we have our own biases at play, but there are ways that you can just neutrally write down the facts and see a fact pattern developing, and then start to infer some possible reasons why people are behaving that way, and then try to ask them once you've gathered that information. So watching and observing is usually a first step, then asking as you go forward. Okay. We are going to jump back into it. I'm keeping track of time. I just want to note this was originally a 90-minute session. We'll probably go 10, 15 minutes over that. We'll stop the breakouts a little bit before that in case people have to leave, but we may go a bit over that originally scheduled 90 minutes. I hope that's okay, and I hope you can stick around. Let's jump back into our presentation. We have learned, we've gathered some insights, and now what we need to do is start making some decisions, making some choices, putting back on that analytical side of our brain a little bit, because we first opened up to learning very, very broad, big, wide, and now we have to sort of narrow things back down and start creating, making some choices and defining what it is we're trying to solve with step 2. Step 2 is framing. You have another sheet in a workbook that looks something like this. This one's already filled in to give you an idea. You're trying to frame who and what you are solving for. And the way of doing this, the way of writing it is blank, need a way to blank. That first blank is our target or current user segment. This is who we're trying to solve for. And it's not just Jared Lee. It's maybe not just instructor at CATS. It's all the things perhaps that Ina was saying right off the top. Jared Lee, husband and father and adventurous traveler, right? So how do we help engaged and outgoing professionals? And now this feels like a pat on the back, so I'll stop doing that. But what you're trying to do is define the user segment beyond just that observable top level part of the iceberg. You're trying to define the user segment in the deeper way. And then craft a statement for their needs, that insights that you've developed from asking them and inferring why they're doing things. What is that underlying need? Maybe they didn't tell you in words. You can infer it from the fact pattern, the observation, and putting different things together in a way that goes, oh, what they seem to need is this. So overwhelmed professionals need a way to keep their lives in order. That's my wallet, very simple, several card slots, just nice, neat. I know where everything is. I don't have to look for it. It's just nice and neatly in order. It's a small little tiny wallet, and I forgot to go grab it. I promise before the end, I'll run down the stairs. And that was for me. I was like, oh, I need simplicity in my wallet. I need to know that my money is in order and everything is where it needs to be. So I want you to, you may have already started, sort through that information you've collected, what you heard from your interview subject, and pull out the most compelling need or the most interesting insight and fill in that workbook. And now you may not have printed the workbook. I'll show it to you again in a moment. Develop that problem statement that's actionable. How can you actually help fulfill that need with a wallet, and set constraints on what you're trying to solve? So here's the workbook again. I want you to think about it for maybe 30 seconds right now if you haven't already done it. Our target user segment, who are they? Who is this person you just interviewed? Needs a way to What is that underlying need they're trying to solve? Then we're going to go back to breakout groups after you define it individually to share and compare to your peers. Take another 15 seconds. See some people writing. Excellent. Okay, so now we're going to go back to breakout groups as promised. I want you to share what you just wrote. Everybody just take a turn and then agree upon, maybe massage the definitions, combine them in an interesting way, build upon the ideas and the insights brought forward by your peers in the breakout group to define a single target segment and a well-crafted problem definition. So figure that out together, what you're going to work on as the common definition, because then from that single point, we're going to expand again in a moment when we get into ideation and brainstorming. But for right now, we need to agree upon a common framing in order to solve the same problem. Okay, let's go back to breakout groups. We're going to take about 8 minutes to do this. You already have the problem definitions you've written. I'll give you a bit of time to refine it. We're going to take about 8 minutes back in your breakout groups. Go ahead, Valerie. Excellent. And you have to accept the breakout join again. Valerie, it seems we have a few people unassigned. You're doing a great job, by the way, Valerie. Outstanding job.
Thank you so much. Maha, would you like to join a breakout room?
Just joined the session, so I'm not sure.
Or would you like to
I
listen
will
in?
contribute.
So the quick recap, Maha, thank you for joining. It's never too late to learn design thinking, so thank you for joining. What we've done, and I've still got my screen sharing up, what we're talking about, I'll flip back through really quickly, is walking through a design thinking process of learning about a user, their underlying needs, framing those needs in a particular well-crafted way so that we can agree on this is the problem we're trying to solve for this human individual who's got complexity about them. Then once we've agreed on a common framing of the problem, we'll open up in a few moments to ideation or brainstorming and generating lots of ideas. And then we'll actually sketch out a potential solution to put forward for that person as their solution. And we'll talk about iteration afterwards. So where we are right now is in the framing aspect. The breakout groups before took about 10 minutes to interview one of their members to understand who that individual is. And right now they're working on framing and crafting a particular problem statement for that person.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So we'll put you into a breakout group, and I would suggest that you just adopt the framing that they have refined.
Okay, great. Thank you.
See you shortly, Maha.
Excellent. And we may pause. Welcome back. Everyone's reconnecting back to plenary. Excellent. All right. I'm going to ask again, how was that? Did everyone have absolutely the same exact understanding of the user target segment and the need they were trying to solve? I see lots of shaking heads.
No,
Go ahead. Sorry.
At all.
Not at all. Catherine LaFontaine in the chat says, I think we did, exclamation point. I'm excited. Catherine, tell us more.
Hi there. Yeah, so essentially, Aliona was our user, and she was describing how her wallet has followed her for the last 20 years between Europe and Canada, and just how attached she is to it. So we were all looking at a user segment of travelers, people living between different countries, continents, cultures, who need a way to keep, you know, to make it flexible enough that they can switch between different currencies, but also keep all of their documentation and ID on them. And so there's a security aspect to it as well.
Thank you, Catherine. And can I ask either Catherine or another member of the group, other than Aliona, and you'll see why, was Aliona's story, it sounds like Aliona's story was quite clear, it was quite vivid. Is that right?
I would say that we progressed through. As the conversation went, we started getting the more the details started coming out in terms of what was catching our ear and then what we summarized.
Thank you very much, Britt. I appreciate that. And the reason I ask about the vividness, that clarity, is because the deeper we go, as Britt says, right? The deeper we go then in terms of refinement in our initial questioning, and the more extremely clear and sort of crystallizing and compelling that story is. Just that stark contrast for either from your own experience or from the average experience. It's a concept called extreme users. We look for folks who are in our customer target segment or who are in the population that we're trying to solve for, that are perhaps really crystal clear about why they're using your product or service. They are fans, they are passionate. Now they're one type of user for sure, but because they are so engaged, because they're such rabid, they're regular subscribers, they've got the premium level, or if you're, you run a coffee shop, it's that regular customer who comes in every day. That's the type of person who is can so richly express the experience and can so richly tell you their needs that it creates a compelling story that sounds like allowed you to all come to a common understanding of the framing. And that's what you're looking for. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the person who is all the way at the passionate end. It might be the person who never goes to the movie theaters, and we want to understand how we can overcome this person's avoidance of movie theaters, right? They went to the last movie theater 15 years ago. They never go again. Why? Because I hate how expensive it is. It's too loud, too noisy. The seats are sticky. I can never find parking. I never go to the movies. Oh, interesting. Tell us more. Because if I'm a movie theater owner, I'm going to want to know why people are avoiding my service. And somebody who's crystal clear about why they're avoiding the service tells you all the pain points and the friction points in order to fix in the process to open up the opportunity for them to come back to you. So the clearer your stage one is, the easier it will be to do step two, which is the framing. Now that we've made some framing and hopefully gotten to at least a workable definition shared together, I hope there's no groups that have, no, I refuse to work on that target segment. So hopefully we're all playing along well. Let us move toward ideation. Ideation is step three. Good ideas are ones that get a reaction because you're looking for that aha moment. You're looking for that spark. You're looking for the, ooh, I didn't expect that. I'm looking, ooh, yes, and. You're looking for ways to build on each other's thinking for new ideas. And you want to build on each other's thinking for new ideas because, as our good friend Linus Pauling, I've never met him, it's okay, I can call him my good friend. Our good friend Linus Pauling said that the best way to get a good idea is to get lots of ideas. We have this mistaken notion that great musicians of the past and great painters of the past and great scientists and great film directors just knew from a bolt in the blue. They were born with the right idea. But no, it's through having lots of ideas. Stephen King, famous horror literary guy, I can't read his books. It keeps me up at night. My wife loves them, but I can't. Anyway, Stephen King says that he writes every day. He gets up, he gets to his computer, he writes every day. Even if it's not something that makes it in the book, he makes himself go through that process, because getting great ideas is about volume and trying things. So in ideation, you may have heard it as brainstorming, the idea is to build a higher number of ideas. Here we see a schematic or a sketch of number of ideas versus quality. And I'm going to show you two conceptual graphs. They're with rules and without rules. You need to throw away the rules in order to get to great ideas. Why? Because with rules, you're going to start thinking of ideas as, you know, Jared, you're a mechanical engineer, you better get the right darned idea. And so you don't want to fail. You pull yourself back from something crazy. You know what bad ideas look like on one end, but you're not sure about the crazy, wild, brilliant breakthrough ideas on the other because maybe it's not quite feasible. And so you pull yourself back to the middle. So your ego is the number one rule that you have. There are plenty of other rules like the boss is always right, or we must always have a business plan with 100% accuracy, right? How many times do we run into that in our businesses and our life, that there's these rules, there's these constraints? Well, let's try our best to throw those away right now, because if you do, you're going to get a curve that looks more like the green curve here. Yeah, admittedly, you're going to get a ton of low quality ideas. Now, quality means a lot of different things. Let's just set that aside and say an agreed upon definition of quality that's meaningful in some way. If you throw out the rules, you're going to get tons of ideas that can't get off the ground, that don't work, that are totally crazy, right? We want to build a new thrill ride for Walt Disney World. We're going to send every kid who wants to go to the moon to the actual moon. We're going to put them in a rocket ship and send them to the actual moon. Oof, okay, maybe that one's not going to fly. But, pun not intended. But if you allow yourself to break the rules, what you get to is you follow the curve up in quality, and what you're looking for is it allows you to get a higher volume of breakthrough high quality ideas, because you've elevated the entire curve along the way. And yeah, it tends to fill up more at the bottom end, the low quality, but it also allows you to unlock and think of and say out loud without an ego or judgment your breakthrough wild harebrained schemes that are so crazy they just might work. And what will happen if you go through that with other folks, other individuals, your peers, your colleagues, and you defer judgment, you defer rules, you encourage those moonshot ideas, and you start building one Lego brick on top of the other with your ideas and stay together in that process, what will happen is you will go from put every kid in an actual SpaceX rocket and send them to the moon to a partnership with SpaceX Experience for kids who want to be the next astronaut. And we're going to readapt Space Mountain in order to follow them through that. We're going to, oh yeah, here we go, right? If you allow yourself that opportunity to build, 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 you'll get to something that is the breakthrough idea that becomes something your users will want and need and love. So we're going to go back to our breakout groups. What I want you to do, this is slightly out of order perhaps. We're going to start brainstorming. I'm going to skip past this slide for a second. As a group, brainstorm as many ideas, wallet ideas as you can. Okay, throw them all out there. Try to answer the needs of your user segment and really go wild. As good, as big, and many ideas as you can. And then individually, because I want you to do it as an individual exercise too, develop at least 3 ideas. Okay, so brainstorm, 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 and then take the last, say, 2 minutes of the breakout, and we'll give you a message to sketch out 3 ideas based on that brainstorm. And they can be combinations of things that were said. They can be new things that you've thought of based on those ideas, but brainstorm together and then individually develop 3 new wallet ideas focused on your target segment. Okay. We're going to take another 10 minutes for this. Use the first 6, 7, 8 minutes to really go wild with brainstorming, and then start making some choices for yourself with at least 3 wallet ideas. Hey, welcome back. welcome back. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. All right. Now I would like everyone to volunteer in the chat. What was the craziest idea that your group came up with? And no judgment, nothing at all. We're not assigning it to anybody who originated it. What was the craziest idea that you came up with for a new wallet? A cement wallet. Thank you, Marius. Digital wallet app. Maybe a good idea. What else? Thank you, Marius and Daniel. Entirely biometric, all from fingerprint. Yeah, okay. Seems like at least 2 people had that idea, or maybe it was the same group. Modular wallet at the wallet store. Implanted chip, yeah. Kinetic energy battery to be able to use Touch ID. Good. Even in regions without electricity. Oh, yeah, actually, that's a really good idea. There you go. Huh? That's actually a really good idea. Hybrid wallets, phones. Wallet that's not a wallet. It's a lot of digital payment system stuff. Yeah, good. Interesting. And then the exact opposite with a cement wallet. So also good. So I'm curious, how was that? Did you ever get stuck? And I don't know if anybody saw some of the messages I was throwing into the rooms, but was it free flowing the whole time, or did you get stuck at any point? Anybody want to volunteer?
We got stuck a little bit because of our user group. I mean, like, we felt like we could have thought of, we did think of like a card that just has everything on it, but we were getting stuck on the particular user group or the audience would be somebody who doesn't want everything to be digital. So it was kind of like, you know, having the physical cards, and it seems like so many of the solutions have already been found for that because we have had wallets for so long. So we were kind of saying things like, would be an origami wallet, like that you would fold up and but yeah, so we were getting a little stuck on finding new ideas for a user group that was traditional.
Yeah. So one way to do that, and unfortunately we don't have time today, would be to say, okay, interesting. Maybe we didn't quite frame it the right way. Maybe we don't quite have an underlying need that's clear. Maybe we need to go back in the process. And I'm not saying that anything's wrong. That's normal. That's a normal part of the iterative process within that loop of, you know, we brainstormed, we sort of ran out of gas, or we brainstormed and all we could think of were things that are already existing on the market. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that just means it's a very well-served user segment that is perfectly happy with his or her wallet that they can pick up at one of 10,000 stores. Maybe that's the case. And so we don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. But it's worth asking the question and saying, did we really understand and empathize as deeply as we could have? Did we really frame the user segment and the need in the right way? Because one of the things that we use in design thinking a lot is a reframing of the problem. And if you ask it in a slightly different way, perhaps it unlocks a different idea. And sometimes we think, oh, what? How can we give them a way to digitally access something? And maybe the digitally part isn't really what they need. And maybe it's not even that they need to access it, it needs to be accessed. Or they need a solution that allows them to move freely and not worry about access entirely. And so if we can reframe in different ways, we go, okay, that's it. There's the underlying need that we can solve for. And now there's 101 ways that we can think of to do that. It's hard to say in that particular instance, Trina, but I really appreciate you bringing that forward because it's super common in design thinking to have to go, maybe we didn't get that quite right. Let's go ask some more questions. Let's try a different framing. Let's see what happens. And some of you may have seen, and if you didn't see it, it's okay, popping up in the breakout group, I was offering some other tools that we often use, which are You know, the VIP designer, what kind of wallet would Steve Jobs design? What kind of wallet would Yo-Yo Ma design, the famous cellist? Maybe a different sensibility. Or what could you do with just $1? If you only had $1 per wallet in terms of materials or cost, or what do you have laying around your house? So thinking of those extreme situations again, or very crystal clear sort of designer aesthetics that they're so in contrast and so crystal clear, it allows us to go, oh, I got out of my perspective again, or even a little constraint of just $1 allows you to say, well, if I only had $1, I'd probably do it like this. And then you can start to build, build, build. So if you get stuck in this process, just ask yourself some of those questions. And there are thousands of brainstorming tips and questions like that, reframing questions that you can find easily online. And if you can't, feel free to contact me and I'll give you some. All right. Let's keep moving. We're at an hour and 20 minutes. We're going to move through the rest of this a little bit quickly, and we're going to change sort of what we had planned for the last breakout. So to respect everybody's time, we still will probably go a little bit over. If you do have to drop, I understand. You don't hurt my feelings. Now we're going to talk about testing, because the next thing that you would do is once you have your one of your 3 ideas, you would test it. You say, okay, this is what I'm going to put forward at first, my first idea. And what you want to do when you test it is not go, look at this great wallet I made for you. Tell me how much you like it. That again is like that leading the witness. So what you're trying to do is offer and show and open up an opportunity for interaction. Open up an opportunity for the person to try out the product, the service, to approach things in a new way that you've designed for them, and just see what they do. Just watch and observe. Do they pick it up? Do they, if it's a wallet, do they turn it over? If you've relayed out a physical service process, do they go where you thought they would? Or maybe you need to put some arrows on the floor to guide the flow of traffic. Because to you, it was obvious that the order menu is over there and the counter is over there, but people keep going to the wrong darn spot. Well, okay, so just like watch and see what they do, rather than standing at the door and say, you order over there, isn't this new way nice? You just watch and see what they do. Listen for new insights. Again, that's an ethnographic approach. And then perhaps engage. If you have an interesting insight and you say, excuse me, why? I'm just curious. Why did you naturally go to that part of the counter to order instead of over here? And they say, oh, well, I saw the cash register or something like that. You go, oh, well, if I put a sign over here that said order here, let me just sketch that out. If I put that sort of sign there, would that help you? Oh, yeah, actually, that's what I was looking for. I was looking, oh, okay, so we need to put a sign that says order here. I use that example because everybody's sort of familiar with it. But the idea is to just see what happens and then iterate perhaps on the spot. So what we would normally do if we had a bit more time is allow you to go back into the user groups and test that out and share and see some reactions. I think just to respect everyone's time for this afternoon, we're going to hold off on that, but you have this gather feedback on your prototype in the workbook. What did they like? Why? What did they not like? Why? Any suggested changes? And just as important, this bottom category, what new insights did I learn from their feedback? Because then I can take a step back, refine the idea, bring out perhaps my next test, my next iteration. And we're going to talk about iteration and scaling up in a moment. But what is that insight based on the feedback? You're not just testing for up, down. This is not the Roman Colosseum where you either defeat the lions or you get eaten by them. This is a test where you get to learn something about how you understood your user and how they are responding to your offering of a new design. It doesn't mean it's a failure. It means that you've learned something. Just the other day, I'm going to take it back to aerospace again because I was an aerospace engineer for a while. A SpaceX rocket blew up. They were testing a new rocket and it blew up because it was a suborbital launch and they were bringing it back down to try to land it, and it came in at a too high of a velocity, slightly off of axis, and the whole thing went kaboom. And Elon Musk immediately tweeted out, huge success, we got all the data we needed. They got all the data they needed. they understood what they were trying to test for. So when you do test, if the user goes, oh, that wallet is terrible, you don't go, oh, okay, I'm not a wallet designer then. You go, oh, interesting. What do you hate most about it? And somebody says, oh, well, the color is atrocious. Okay, no problem. We'll change the color. See what else. Now what? Now how do you feel about it? Well, I feel a little bit better. So tests are just that. They're just tests. Here's where we would go back into groups. I'm going to skip that for timing, if that's all right with you, because we're going to get to iterate, which I'm already leading into with that idea of testing, and it's try again. Here we show an image of an app development. Doesn't look much like a cell phone, right? It's this giant thing and there's these Post-it notes. What's going on there? Well, somebody took the silhouette of an iPhone in cardboard and wrote down what a new app might look like on paper. And then we ask the individual, if you had to enter your email address, where would you click? If you had to sign up as a new user, where would you click? And you get them to do it, and you put it in front of them, and they go, oh, I'm lost. Or they're always clicking something that you didn't intend to be a menu. Okay, no worries, cool. New sheet of paper, lay it down in front of them. How about now? Iterate, and scale up over time. Eventually you would get to an actual sort of, version of an app. Just keep iterating. That's why software release goes through 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. So iteration and using early, using rough prototypes that can be changed quickly is key. In service design or in a physical space design, that might just be cardboard boxes. Here's my new counter. Here's my new menu. Write it down on a whiteboard or something like that. And using rough prototypes that can be changed quickly are key to iteration. And again, learning. I want to iterate on this slide. I want to be explicit on this slide about bringing back together that left brain, right brain that we talked about before. Because what we see here is first, before you iterate, before you go through that cycle of a new test, you want to say, what is it we want to learn? What is the data that we need to get out of this? How can we move ourselves forward? Then how can we test it? Okay, we can put forward a minimum viable product. We can put forward this. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. It might just be one small part of the product, one small part of the service design or the user experience, and test that. Okay, how does that change your idea? And go back. But the left brain, right brain part of that is essential. How do we test it? What data do we need? Creative way of doing it, observation, openness to learning something new. What did we learn? Process it back together, add that data to our collection, keep building that story of our data and our insights, and then go forward. I also want to, okay, good. So a couple people have to go. I understand 2:30, so we're getting some goodbye messages. I thank them in their absence for having come. Let me show you a way, very quick, rapid prototyping and iteration in an interesting way. Some of you may have seen the clip that I'm about to show, but let's talk about McDonald's. 1948, original McDonald's. How can we radically improve efficiency to provide hungry drivers with quick, affordable meals? That's their sort of problem statement, right? Hungry drivers need quick, affordable meals. How do we do that? Well, one way is we radically improve efficiency so they get it fast and they get it cheap. I'm going to show you a clip from the movie The Founder. If you've already seen it, great. If you haven't, you're in luck. I have the clip. All the issues of the founder and the character that Michael Keaton plays aside, in terms of the dark side of Ray Kroc and what they did and the McDonald's brothers, all of that aside, the clip is a very, very interesting show of rapid prototyping and iteration. I need to share. So I love that clip because it shows just that ability to scrap everything. Try again. It's okay, just move it around. Now, what they did that you may not want to do is start yelling at your users. Don't yell at your users, right? They did not share with an openness to inquiry. They were quite literally, are you gonna do that, kid? No, those are pickles, right? So let me encourage you, when you do it, go back to what we said about open sharing, observation, and being open to you being the one who's wrong, which in the end they were, right? They sketched out their design. But instead of just building an entire restaurant and having it be, you know, klutzy the whole time, they took a moment, 6 hours, to try it out, to see how it worked, and to iterate. And Randy says, being agile, fail fast and move on. Absolutely. So there's a lot of overlap between design thinking and agile methodology, particularly in the later stages. The core of design thinking that sets it apart, I'd say, from agile is the upfront user empathy and that deep openness to inquiry and deep openness to something wildly different, rather than agile being something that is an iterative improvement on a much more well understood, clearly defined problem. With that said, that's all. I've already answered one of the questions that I normally often get in this. So let us move to wrap up. Okay, so we've got wrap up, and in the workbook, if you don't have it, perhaps Valerie, you can drop it in again into the chat, just so everybody does have it to take away. You've got a page at the back of the workbook that is a cheat sheet, so to speak, of the process that we just went through, the definition of design thinking, a definition, I would say, the description and tips as you go through each stage, some additional recommended reading of resources in case that's helpful to you. If you've got your interest peaked right now, how can I use design thinking? On the left, we have Creative Confidence by the guys who started IDEO. It's a famous design firm based in San Francisco that's pioneered a lot of the techniques in design thinking. They also teach at the Stanford D School, and they talk about how everyone has creativity inside of them. Design thinking is a tool and a process for helping you unlock that in yourself. There's Designing Your Life by Bill Burnett, Dave Evans. It's design thinking applied to you, to your life. I put that one in there specifically for power skills, insofar as we are upskilling, reinventing ourselves, imagining ourselves at a virtual career summit, doing something different with our lives or doing something in a different way. Designing Your Life is an excellent resource for that. And even if you're not thinking about it right now, I'd say go ahead and read it, because it may spark some ideas. Change by Design is about organizational applications of design thinking. How does an organization get changed? And then Sprint by Jake Knapp is design thinking-ish, not exactly the same framework and methodology as the others, but it's about sprinting through how do you do like a 5-day rapid prototype and iteration, and how can you learn well from it. I'd love to take any, I'd love to hear your key takeaways, I should say, and then respond to any questions that I have. We're a few minutes over, but I appreciate you sticking around for it.
So I would invite anybody who wants to ask a question to just unmute and jump in, because it will be faster than just typing in the chat.
Thank you, Ina.
I have one.
Go ahead, Nika.
What sparked your interest in design thinking?
Oh, interesting question. So I'll tell you the absolute honest truth is I had no idea about design thinking before I went to graduate school. And I was fortunate enough to go to graduate school at Stanford. I grew up in Florida, as Ina said earlier. I went to University of Florida for aerospace engineering. That is one very non-design thinking way of solving problems in the aerospace world. Stage gate process, checklists, like it's very constrained. And I showed up at Stanford to do a mechanical engineering master's. And at one point I walked out onto a field and there were these folks, I kid you not, there were all these engineering folks that I knew out in the middle of a field with cardboard cutouts and weird things of big vehicles that looked like tanks and catapults. And they were playing a water balloon fight. It was this big, how can we score this water balloon fight with these, what looked like rattle trap contraptions. And I went over and I said, what are you guys doing? They said, oh, this is the design thinking class. The design what? I've got to get in on this. And so I went back to my research advisor who had my funding. And I said, can I take a design thinking course? He said, no, you have to take Fourier analysis. I went, oh, Yeah, I guess I do. Okay, I'll take Fourier analysis, but I'm going to learn more about this design thinking. So I started hanging out a little bit at the D school and hanging out with my friends that were taking the design thinking track, and then got really involved with it afterwards. And specifically after I did my MBA at McGill, I went into consulting, but joined Juniper because it was founded by two former McKinsey folks, McKinsey, big international consulting firm, one of which was the co-lead for the design thinking practice in North America, and had spent years in it. So I've developed from that mentor relationship over time, and that's the process that we use to consult from our firm to help others, organizations and individuals, to think about new ways to unlock their creativity.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
A question, how much would you encourage play activities before you start this design thinking process in order to maybe open up more creativity?
Your play activities, can you be a bit more specific? What do you have in mind?
Like prepping folks to start thinking this way. I saw it several times where folks were like saying, we had a little bit of this, but it was kind of hard, versus, opening the mind with playing and having fun and then going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that happens a lot in design thinking. Is we walk in with something that's totally different. That's, Legos. Let's build something. Who can come up with an interesting animal that's never existed before out of Legos? Has nothing to do with what we're trying to solve, right? It's just, as you say, it's suggesting that it's okay to iterate, it's okay to fail, it's okay to not know what it is you're about to do. And so using a couple of exercises like that up front, as you say, to unlock that mode of thinking and play and be able to say, that's fine, not a big deal, let's move on to the next thing, is absolutely critical. But it's a great point, Britt. Yes, absolutely. So we do use that.
Hi, I have one question, please.
Yeah, go ahead, Sheikh.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for amazing session. I like everything about it, So my question would be, what's your thoughts on what 3 things should be considered when anyone thinks of design thinking?
What 3 things should be considered?
In design thinking important.
Why is it important?
No, what 3 things should be considered in terms of design thinking?
Okay, so I'll go back to the definition, right? It's that I offered is a disciplined approach to solving human-centered problems with creativity. Okay, and so that sort of offers you 3 ways. It is an approach. It is a disciplined approach, and oftentimes design thinking gets a bad rap of those guys are just being crazy. I have no idea what they're doing. Right? They're just throwing spaghetti at the wall, and nothing's ever going to stick. What are those people doing? No, it's actually a well understood, and with a good track record, a disciplined approach with more tools and more processes than I've been able to show you today. It is a disciplined approach. It is a disciplined approach to human-centered problems. This is not good for checklist style problems. Design thinking is best for solving unknown unknowns. I want to come back to that in a moment because it's an interesting concept. And then the last piece is opening up creative solutions. And this gets to what Britt was talking about, is that willingness to play, that willingness to open up and build on each other's ideas and be creative, which I assure you, everyone is creative. Everyone is creative, even if you don't think of yourself that way. I'll go back to the unknown unknowns issue. The best applicability of design thinking is not to solve known problems. It's not to solve the known unknown problems. It's to solve the unknown problems. Okay, I'll give you an example of each. The known problem is we're flying in an airplane. Pretend you're the pilot. You get either on your screen or they come over the radio and they say Boeing 747, about 30 miles ahead of you, there is a intense raging thunderstorm. You may want to divert. You go, okay, yes, we'd like to divert. No problem, turn right heading 340, descend to 30,000 feet and you'll skirt around it, right? You don't need design thinking. It is a known problem. We know there's a thunderstorm there. We know how to solve it. We divert, there's traffic procedures, like checklist, right? Design thinking is not for that. There are the known unknowns. My iPhone doesn't work, right? I can't get it to do what I want it to do. It seems like there's something wrong with it. Well, it is a machine. It is a confined space We know how it's supposed to work. We have the schematic, the manual, we know what the software is supposed to work. And given enough time, somebody with a diagnostic approach, not a checklist, but a diagnostic approach, can try enough things to understand what the unknown is and then move more to a checklist. This is what doctors do all the time. My wife's a surgeon. She goes to years of training and then she just ask. Aha, that's the type of cancer you have. This is how we treat it, right? It's a diagnostic approach. Design thinking is the unknown issue. Somebody needs a new wallet. Who needs a new wallet? I don't know. Do they really need a new wallet? What kind of wallet do they need? Why do they need that kind of a wallet? I don't know. Could be from all sorts of things. Could be because when they were young, they grew up in a house that had very little money. So that to them, it means something very close to their hearts. And it's a scarce thing that they want to have control of. Maybe they want to have an expressive wallet because they're an artist, right? So it's that unknown that you're solving for with design thinking. So to answer your question, Sheikh, disciplined approach to human-centered problem solving with creative solutions.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I promised you my wallet. I did go get it. Okay, this is my wallet. It is, as I promised, it is very simple. It has one card on either side. Those are the cards I need access most to, my credit card and my driver's license. And then it has just two cards on either side with a little pull out for money on one side and the other two cards that I use. I have a business credit card, my debit card, and then on the other side are my health insurance, my actual health insurance, and then my Medicare coverage card. That's the only thing I keep in my wallet. It's nice and thin. It's well ordered. I know where everything is. Nothing gets lost because I'm still an engineer. As much as I love creativity, as much as if you stick around, if you want, I'll play ukulele. I'm learning ukulele. I was a musician for years. As much as I love that, I still want my money to be nice and neat.
Well, Jared, we're not going to abuse your time anymore. It's 2:45. I just would love to thank you on behalf probably of everyone in this session for so generously sharing your knowledge and your experience. So bravo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ina. Thank you everyone for your
On behalf
incredible
of the room.
Yes. Well, I see other people clapping too, and it's so much fun. You might, guess if it's empathy. Hopefully, I've shown you that I love this. I really do enjoy it, and it was a pleasure to be here with all of you today. And thank you to the School of Continuing Studies for allowing me to be here.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.